Not too long ago, I made a video discussing the leaks and rumors about the ROG Ally 2 not really being a thing, but it's going to be a sort of pseudo collaboration with Microsoft, making this sort of halfway in between an official branded Xbox handheld and basically the Ally 2. But from what it looks like, we've seen now this massive leak dropped with the confirmation of the Ally 2 coming and massive just full images of what these things look like, thanks to some clever people snooping around FTC filings and a few other means. We've gotten full images of what each model of the device looks like and the potential for what the Xbox version of this handheld looks like. We obtained all this information from some credible leakers off of Twitter, and I'm quoting some articles I found online fully discussing this deeper in context. Before we jump in, we also know the specs of these handhelds. And before we get into actually deeper details on that, which are honestly also very interesting, let's talk about what they physically look like. The black one shares some notable things. It pretty much shows an Xbox button in the top left corner as shown on the screen now, but I'll be honest, it's too blurry and straight up just looks like covered in grease for me to honestly give a definitive answer whether or not that is in fact an Xbox button. Everybody seems to be convinced, but I'm a little skeptical purely because of just how not great the picture is. But for all intents and purposes, the general community consensus is that that is in fact an Xbox button, which you do not see on the white version as displayed now. The white one seems to either lack that button or has it completely blacked out. There's some important differences between this black and white model. From what it looks like, they share completely different specs, even down to the processor. According to a source that I have linked down below from videocards.com, they have compiled a more just accurate summarization of what has happened in the last few days. But for specifically the black model with the Xbox button, it has an 8-core AMD processor, presumably the Z2 Extreme. It has a 7-inch 120Hz display and potentially 32 gigs of DDR5 memory clocked at a whopping 8533 megatransfers per second, which is hands down some of the fastest memory I have ever seen. This other white model has a custom processor attached to it, a custom 4-core 20-watt AMD Aerith Plus processor, seemingly a successor to the processor found on the Steam Deck. If you don't remember, that was a Van Gogh AMD processor, a custom solution that Valve and AMD collaborated on developing, so it has more deeper integration with SteamOS. This next generation version of that processor is very interesting to see on this handheld. And I'll be honest, it leads me thinking that it should be more powerful than the Z2 Go, but I could also be wrong about that. We have very little information about how this new processor is going to perform, but we do have a pretty good idea about how the Z2 Extreme is going to perform, because there are some currently existing already laptop processors that share enough with it that we can make a pretty accurate assumption on how that's going to perform. But we can't say the same for this other slightly more cut down processor. Something that you guys might have noticed in all of the images I've shown, the device has some meat to it. It is kind of a very interesting looking handheld. It has some meaty handles. It really does kind of remind me of those old renders people would do of a Xbox 360 portable. You know, basically just slapping a screen in the middle of an Xbox 360 controller. And that always looked kind of ridiculous. Very similar to how the PlayStation Portal does. It looks like you split a PlayStation 5 controller in half and just put in an 8-inch screen in between it. Because the controller handles look kind of hilarious, and it looks very, at least the black one looks very plasticky, very shiny. Just could be pre-production, but it just kind of looks wet, which sounds awful, but that's just what it looks like. It's just nobody thought to take a microfiber to this before they decided to take a picture. Like, we always see these leaked handhelds and they're just really gross looking for some reason, and nobody ever thinks, you know, before I take this picture, I'll take 1 second or two with a just washcloth or something to clean these things up. It just makes everybody's life so much worse. Nitpicking aside, these leaks seem to be pretty credible. From sources and just direct images from these FTC filings and whatnot, that honestly, I'm pretty convinced that this is in fact the next generation handheld. There's very little reason to assume otherwise. Biggest thing is the assumption of when this is going to be officially announced. Supposedly it's going to be held at Computex, that's when it's going to be fully unveiled, and we still don't know the confirmation of whether or not Microsoft is still developing that Xbox sort of handheld operating system for PC handhelds, or if it's just a handheld with deeper integration with the Microsoft ecosystem. As it currently stands, Microsoft hasn't really said anything about potential handheld outside of leaks and discussion of a Project Keenan, which the community has pretty much unanimously decided that the black handheld, at least for the Ally 2, that's what Project Keenan is. And it's a lot less Xboxy than I was kind of hoping for if this in fact does turn out to be that Xbox handheld, because I was expecting a little bit more of a Xbox Microsoft, spice to it. This is pretty much just an ROG Ally 2 with an Xbox button, which on some level is a little disappointing because I would love to see just Microsoft go full ham on it and just make a really hilariously looking handheld. Sort of like what PlayStation did with the Portal, because say what you will about it, it's a okay enough handheld, but it looks stupid and it's hilarious, and I love it for that reason. Though functionally, I still hate it to this day. So it would be really interesting to find out how this whole system is going to work. What level of Xbox integration will there be? And will it even support things like external GPUs in that Xbox mode? Because that would be really cool to see. It has two Type-C ports on the top, much like the Ally X. Pretty much has the core design looks like an Ally X, just with extra haunches on the side for better ergonomics, I assume. But it seemingly uses the same screen found on the current Allies, which it's not a bad screen by any means, but it is a little disappointing to see them keep reusing the same 7-inch 1080p 120Hz display. I would love to see OLED. Mini LED would be incredibly expensive, but just something different, larger, higher resolution, something, because it just starts to all look the same. Personally, I wouldn't really care if it was 1080p 120Hz still, or even if it was still IPS. I would have preferred a larger screen, not physically larger, one that just takes up more of the bezel, because it's not like it has huge bezels, but they are noticeable, and if the screen just took up more of that space, not gonna get you a full inch, but it might get you like 3/4 or half an inch in screen size, which might be the perfect physical size of a screen for portable use, because I always felt like devices like the Legion Go with 8-inch screens just feel a little bit unwieldy in the hand and just feel really big for portable use, but like 7.5 would be fine. Other than that, this is some really exciting news and leaks. I would love to hear what you guys think about these leaks, because I know I'm super excited to get more information about this stuff and to really see what Microsoft has planned for this Xbox version of this handheld and what potential prices these things are going to end up at. Because honestly, that is also one of the most curious things about these things, is how much they're going to cost. Other than that, I would love to hear what you guys think about this down below. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All the other social media garbage down below. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.